This is the archives of the Soap Factory. There are thousands and thousands of documents back here from the last 20 years. All sorts of stuff, gallery logs, posters, flyers, handwritten correspondences, basically everything. And this is what we drew from. So it was really just a matter of kind of taking the last 6 months or so last year to kind of work my way through this with the help of interns and volunteers, and just pull the good material, the material we thought told the story the best, and assembling it up on that wall. And a lot of it's posters, but there's also photographs of openings. There's correspondence when it's become, when it's been interesting. I've put up letters and things like that, letters to the landlord explaining why the rent is going to be late this month. Those are some good ones. But a lot of it is, the posters. The posters are really the thing that kind of tell the story, and it's a really interesting, you can almost think of it as like a graphic design show, just because the posters are sort of the public face of the gallery. That's what you see. And it's progressed in such an interesting way over the last 20 years. Just the way posters are made has changed so much in that time. I mean, the thing I love about the early posters is it's mostly it's either handwritten or it's stuff scotch taped to paper, or it's like white out over photographs. And it's just such a different process, and for a lot of these posters here, it's a letter set, kind of the scratch-on letters, just on neon paper, and it's really brash, and it's really, it's really simple, but it conveys, bold colors, neon, to, more sophisticated sorts of flyers, as the gallery is more established and there's more money. But that's a really interesting thread to follow. I mean, you could almost just have the posters, and I think it would be fascinating, just because the way in which they're made, and the point that they try to get across just changes so much over time. The early ones are just so simple, all handwritten, hand drawn, photocopied at Kinko's on colored paper. The second component to it is we've invited back somewhere 11, 12 artists from the last 20 years to show kind of in the rest of the space every month, basically. So the first two artists are going to be Mark Nielsen and Ilene Krug Mojsilov, who were the first two artists to show in October 1988 at the Skunk House. So we'll be bringing them back together for the first time in 20 years.
No Name Gallery was a storefront in the Skunk House. I like that name. I like that name because it actually captures who we were at that time. And it's got that folksy feature of being a storefront, which I still find really attractive in a gallery. Many of us like street-level browsing or spying into gallery windows after hours. In speaking about location, a walk to No Name was a welcome respite during the monthly gallery crawls in the 1980s. It was about 5 blocks away from the Wyman Building and other galleries that were like stacked up in the warehouse district. Laurie Muir, who you heard about, and Jim Tittle really had great foresight, because I think it's so important that No Name and the Soap Factory really support unaffiliated artists, the emerging artist. And that's what I find really important for me here today. I think what it does is it gives the artist a work-in-progress mentality where the project can evolve after the exhibition closes. Because I think too often art is closed off in a package. It's marketed, it's sent out into the world, but it doesn't evolve. Finally, I commend all the stewards of No Name and the Soap Factory. This organization has run a long-distance relay with capable runners handing the baton gracefully to very creative people. Thank you, everybody.
I'm still a pirate, actually. And that's why I usually have to have my fingernails pulled out to show anywhere. And, except for in situations like this, which I just really, really appreciate and cherish. The galleries like this that are in Ann Arbor where I live, and the ones that remain here. And, because they give artists a lot of freedom, and I love that they're struggling and continuing to work and develop, and they're giving artists a chance to have a lot of freedom. And I think that's just a wonderful thing, and I think it's great, all the work that everybody has done to keep this gallery going. I was so surprised when Andy called me and said, "Do you remember No Name Gallery?" And I was like, I remember when Jim said, "You want to show in this gallery I'm starting?" And I was like, "Well, what is it?" You know, and he said, "Well, it's called, I think we're gonna call it No Name." And I said, "Well, that's a dumb name." You know? But it's actually after I thought about it for a while, I thought, you know, it is kind of a good name for a gallery, because names of galleries are so, you know, contrived often, and No Name was just a real honest kind of starting at the bottom kind of situation, which is what it was, and so I really appreciated that. I don't know what more I have to say, really, except that I didn't really fly in. We drove over and we stopped at... We took the train, because we hate driving through Chicago, and stopped at my mom's house. And she always has the Discovery Channel on. And I found out that, you know how the universe is expanding? Well, actually, you know, they used to think that the universe would expand and then it would start contracting again and turn into antimatter and then explode back into a universe. And well, the latest research says that the universe is actually going to continue to expand and expand and expand until the stars go out, which I think that's, like, if you think about it, it's pretty depressing. But the silver lining for me in that, I mean, it's going to happen like 14 gazillion billion light years from now or whatever, but the silver lining for me in that is that it makes, you know, the daunting, almost impossible task of trying to make art seem, you know, possible.